Waitress serves Grumpy Sr. for years, but when he suddenly vanished, she received a shocking call. Life as a waitress is never easy. You come across people with different moods and attitudes. But no matter how rude they are, waitresses have to keep that smile on their face to serve them well. It is one of the service industries where the worker is neither respected for their work nor paid enough. Still, they have to give their best to maintain their livelihood. For most of their life, they wait for a handsome tip, but only a few workers are that lucky. If you have ever taken the job of a waitress, you will know that there are customers with very high expectations. However, they don't know how to be polite. They blame the server for everything that goes wrong, even though it's not their fault. This story is going to be about a stubborn customer's interaction with a kind waitress who always had a smile on her face. Let's see whether her kindness will be paid off or not. Melina Salazar is a waitress in Luby's restaurant and was very proud of her job. For most of her life, she had worked at Luby's restaurant. Her working job was to take orders from the customer and manage the busy table. Melina is from Brownsville, Texas, and lives a simple lifestyle. Being an honest person, she was always regular at her work and took it very seriously. Everyone there liked her, and the people there became a family to her. If you have ever been to Texas, you will know that Luby's is a popular place to dine in, with many branches all over the country. This restaurant serves some delicious, authentic food. As this is a chain restaurant, the price there is not too high, and that is why the restaurant is always busy with customers. For Melina, working here has always been fun. It is like a second home to her, and she never noticed how days passed and changed into years. Melina is very kind and friendly by nature. She always welcomed her visitors politely and tried every possible way to keep them happy. She always knew that handling tough customers was a part of her job, so instead of complaining, she looked for ways to handle the situation. Melina interacted with many customers every day, and the experience was not the same every time. She knew people from the surrounding area and had to deal with a variety of characters daily. While some were friendly, others were a struggle to handle. Just like any other job, she had good and bad days. She used to encounter some very kind customers, but others were thankless customers who did everything possible to ruin her day. However, one day things changed forever. It was the day she met a former World War veteran, Walter Buck. Swords. In the upcoming months, it was going to be tough for Melina as well as her fellow servers. Walter was 89 years old and was not the kind of person a waitress would enjoy serving. The first time Melina started serving him, she knew that he was special. There was something odd about him. Walter became a regular at Luby's, and he always ordered a hearty meal. Unfortunately, he was not the kindest person and would throw a lot of tantrums. Walter was one of the stricter customers to serve when at the restaurant. He would make consistent demands which were sometimes impossible to follow. He was so rude to the servers that most of the waiters and waitresses refused to attend to him. They used to leave him alone while he was eating, and he would finish his meal in silence. Even though the staff was not ready to serve Walter, he came there every day. Melina used to witness this scenario and never felt good about it. She could never understand why he came there when he didn't like the service. Soon it was clear that there was an unspoken agreement between the staff and Walter. He would order his food and eat there while he is there. No one would come near to his table. Even though he was such a tough man, there was one person who was always ready to help him. It was Melina. Melina knew that she could not leave him alone. There was something that kept them connected. She was the only waitress who would take his order and serve the food whenever he came. Melina would ensure that she did everything to make him happy. His demands were specific, as he wanted the food to be cooked in a certain way. Melina loved her work and was ready to take that extra step to make the customer comfortable. It is uncommon to meet a server like her, and perhaps Walter got lucky. Even though Walter was very rude to her, she always maintained her patience. Soon she knew how Walter wanted his food. Whenever he came around, Melina would place the order. She served him piping hot food every time he came in. Still, there was no change in Walter's behavior. Not only did she work very hard to get the orders perfect, but Melina was also friendly to Walter and all the other customers. She would always start by saying, "How are you doing today?" None of her fellow waiters and waitresses could ever understand how she pulled off that happy face. Even for Walter, she had the happiest expressions ever. Walter always wanted his food very hot. He did not care whether he would burn himself while eating, but the food had to be sizzling. The man was adamant about his wishes, and Melina knew how to achieve them. Good for him that Melina was always there. Salazar admits that Walter even pressed her trigger button sometimes, but she would never let it show on her face. He would start cursing the server whenever something wrong happened. As all the other servers stayed away from him, it was on Melina to help him. Being in the service industry, she had years of experience handling this type of customer. Even though Walter was always mean to her, she single-handedly served him for years. 7 years passed and Melina attended Walter every time with equal patience and kindness. However, one day, Walter did not show up at the restaurant. Melina waited for him day after day, but he did not come. A customer who was so regular in the restaurant suddenly stopped coming. It was a worrying thought for Melina. It was a routine to serve Walter. She has been doing this for 7 years, and every time he stopped by the restaurant, she would interact with him patiently. Melina knew all his moods and demands by now. However, when he stopped coming, Melina noticed that the restaurant looked empty without him. Weeks passed and Walter did not show up. Melina started worrying about him. Where could he have gone? Why did he not show up? Her curiosity bothered her. Weeks passed and Walter did not show up at Luby's restaurant. During her serving days, Melina had discovered a few things about Walter, and she was sure that he was not someone to wander off, nor did he have any family in the area. So what was it after all? Where did he go? Did something happen? Was he hurt? Melina did not know what had happened and was waiting for some information about Walter. One day, she was reading a local newspaper where she found an obituary that confirmed Walter's death. Walter had died, and that's why he was no longer visiting the restaurant. The news stated that Walter had passed away on the afternoon of July 15, 2007. Walter had been a regular customer of Melina for 7 years, and this news was very saddening for her. He was never again going to visit the restaurant. Melina was genuinely affected by the death of Walter. The restaurant looked empty without him on the table. However, life had to go on and she could not do anything now. Besides, Melina had to earn herself a living, so she decided to continue her job and kept serving her customers in the restaurant. Even though she was hurt, she always maintained that smile of hers. After all, she had to pay her bills. However, she did not know what was in store for her ahead. Many months passed by and Melina kept serving at the restaurant. Walter's death did affect her a lot. Every time she looked at his table, she thought he would come back, but he never did. Even though going to work at the restaurant was difficult, she was still true to her job. Time passed, and after a few months, an unexpected visitor came to visit her. She was in the middle of her shift when someone told her she had a visitor. Melina had no idea who he was and how her life was going to change after this visit. It was none other than Walter's lawyer who came to visit Melina. At first, Melina was afraid of what she had to do with Walter's lawyer. She started asking all sorts of questions. She barely knew what Walter was like. All she ever did was serve him food and treated him nicely. Walter did not talk much, so there was nothing she could know about him. Why was this person looking for her? The lawyer revealed that Walter had mentioned Melina in his will. He had written that she was one of the few persons who had ever been good to him. Walter visited the restaurant every day to see her happy face. It was the way she treated him that kept him coming to the restaurant. Being pleased with her services, he decided to gift her something. Melina knew that serving customers' prickly needs was a part of her job. After all, they say, the customer is always right. Being a veteran, Walter had been through a lot, and somehow Melina knew this.